In my last video, I left out a very important topic that was, it was left out by accident, but it's kind of a happy accident because it doesn't really fit in with the theme of what I was talking about in that video anyways. But basically, I was responding to Thomas Sowell's recent video that basically was criticizing Bernie Sanders and his point of view. And for the most part, I agree with it. You can go watch that video to see my specific thoughts on that. But one of the things that he criticized during his video was the idea of government-run healthcare or government-provided healthcare or universal healthcare, whatever label you want to put on it. And in the past, I would have agreed with him, but as I get older and as I start to understand the realities of life for the average person, the less and less I can agree with that philosophy. And here's why. As a person who is strongly anti-socialist and strongly anti-communist, I think that those philosophies, when even used in a medium way, like if we went, I would never agree with like a half socialist, half capitalist society, because you get too few people controlling too many things, and things start to fall apart. You can't run a country that way. It just doesn't work very well. You need to have a mostly capitalist, slightly socialist setup to make things run as smoothly as possible, and here's why. Markets, as Thomas Sowell has eloquently talked about over and over again, are the best and most efficient way of getting things done, and getting things done in the most in the way that gives you the most reasonable price with the best competition and all of those things. Absolutely the case. But at the same time, you're dealing with human beings, and human beings tend to suck, and you need to have some kind of an enforcement agency in place to prevent the people who are willing to act on those impulses from being able to act on those impulses. And that's why, for the most part, while I hate the idea of socialism and the ideas of those things, and I would never implement them in any kind of serious way if I were in charge, there are certain things that we do accept that are basically socialist in nature, and some of those things include things like police departments and fire departments, and the various different roads. If you live in a state in the United States where you don't have to pay tolls for the most part, that's all socialized roadways. Like, we all pay into that, and everybody gets to use it. And while the idea of government-run healthcare tends to scare a lot of people because of the horror stories we hear about other countries, and those are legitimate concerns. I'll talk about those in a minute. The reality of the situation is that while healthcare isn't necessarily a right, because you must have somebody who's willing to, perform that job to give you that healthcare, I do believe that we need to get to a system where it's much more, it's within reach, within more people. Because here's the problem. I have been out of the Marine Corps for I got out in 2013. Has it been 12 years already? I've been out of the Marine Corps for 12 years, and in that 12 years, I've had no health care. Why? Because it's expensive. Because it would represent a significant percentage of my budget to be able to get any kind of reasonable health care coverage. And so most of that is my fault, I will admit. The debt that I've gotten myself into and that I'm slowly crawling my way out of, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm still in it. The debt that I have and the bills that I have and the financial situation and the lack of income has made it to where I have to choose between putting a roof over my head and putting food in my belly and, having a vehicle and being able to pay the mandatory insurance for that, and just all these things that pile up. When you get to the end of your paycheck, you're just like, if I get medical insurance right now, I'm not going to have anything else left to do anything else. Nothing. And that's a problem. I mean, I was making $70K plus a year not that long ago, and I still didn't have extra left over to pay for $200 or $300 a month for freaking insurance. Like, I don't have that money. I don't have that kind of money. What are you talking about? And it's easy for people who have become successful, and I'm sure Thomas Sowell makes a pretty decent amount of money. It's easy for people who have become successful to say that, well, look at all the problems that socialized healthcare has brought. And it's like, yeah, agreed. I don't know of a way out of that. Long wait times, lowering quality of care, costs are reasonable, but then you have an increase in taxes, so everybody has to pay more in their taxes to cover that, and that can be a substantial increase. I understand those concerns. But from the perspective of the many people out there who don't have health insurance at all, like myself for the past 12 years of my life, something's better than nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I would rather have health care that maybe I can get maybe I have to wait a while for it, but at least I get it. You know, like right now, if I have a medical emergency of some kind, I'm going to be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in debt by the time I'm done with that. An emergency room visit, I think it's like $10,000 minimum. If you're stupid enough to get into an ambulance without insurance, you're going to be paying that off for years, unless you just walk away from it and then they write it off, and the federal, or I think the federal government or the state government or somebody pays for it anyway. Somebody pays for it. The hospital doesn't just do that for free. Somebody pays for it. Your tax dollars end up paying for it anyway. So my response to the whole socialized medicine thing is that, yeah, if you're fortunate enough to have the kind of income and financial situation that allows you to pay for insurance and you can afford it and it's not overly burdensome on you, obviously you don't want socialized healthcare, because that means that you're going to have to pay more into the system, and you think that's not fair to you. And I get it. I totally get it. I totally understand that thought process. But at the same time, the people at the bottom have no options. Like, they either don't make enough money to be able to afford healthcare, which means that it's just not an option for them. You know, you can talk about Medicare and Medicaid and all those other things, and, you know, some people use that. But again, your tax dollars are paying for that. And wouldn't you rather have a system that gave everybody a better quality of care? Like, you know what I mean? The problem that I see with the problem that I see with our current system is that because you have major insurance companies that are going out of their way to profit off of, you know, the ill health of Americans in general, nothing ever gets fixed. And it's kind of hard to ignore the argument that, you know, if we took the profit motive out of healthcare and the focus was on fixing things rather than just treating symptoms, the overall cost of things would go down over time, because now, instead of having people that are living with these problems and constantly having to be on medications for this or medications for that, or, you know, these things that get unaddressed for many, many, many years turn into major problems that now require major surgery instead of a lifestyle change. If you had been able to see a doctor for them to tell you what you needed to fix, like, you know what I mean? A lot more preventative things is not, preventative medicine is not profitable. And that's the problem we have in this country. That's the problem we have in this country. And as long as we allow our healthcare system to have a profit motive attached to it, it's never going to change, because the people who make the money aren't going to let you do that. They're not going to let you do that. The only way we get out of this healthcare problem is by making I mean, think about your car insurance, right? Car insurance is the biggest scam on earth. You pay all this money. I have had a crack in my fucking truck, fucking truck windshield for 2 years now, because the insurance will only cover a tiny little thing that they can pay some cheap little dude to come out with a little suction cup to fill it with resin. But replacing the windshield, that's on me because my deductible's too high. What kind of fucking bullshit is that? If I have insurance, if I'm paying $150 a month per vehicle for years with the same company, and I can't get them to replace a fucking windshield, it's a scam. And it's a government mandated scam. And this is why insurance needs to be something that goes away. I have no problem with mandating liability insurance. And I guess that's kind of what we do, but I don't know, I'm going down a wrong road here. But that's the problem. I have no problem with mandating, I had a thought there and I lost it for a second. I have no problem with mandating liability insurance to make sure that we're not hurting anybody else, and if we do, that they get compensated. But your bank requires you to have insurance, and that's the scam. You see what I'm saying? Like my truck is still technically on a loan. I can't put it on liability insurance because it's on a loan, and my bank requires me to have a loan, and the government allows them to require me to have this scam process that we have. You see what I'm saying? It's a vicious cycle that just continues rolling and rolling and rolling. And our healthcare system is the same way. Remember when they tried to mandate healthcare? You remember when they tried to mandate healthcare? You will purchase insurance or we're going to tax you. No, that's not the way you do that. If you're going to force me to pay taxes for healthcare, then you're going to provide me with insurance, and that's just the end of it. Like you're not going to force me to get a healthcare plan. You're just going to tax me and give me the healthcare that way. That way, it's the cheapest possible option, right? Healthcare can be fixed, but the only way it gets fixed is by removing the profit motive. That's just the bottom line. There is no other alternative to that, because as long as people can profit off of you being sick, they're not going to fix it. They have no incentive. They have no incentive to fix it. We've known this for a long time. And anybody who argues against healthcare because, government-run healthcare solely for the reasons that, it goes against free markets and, it has problems associated with it, is forgetting that poor people don't give a crap about that. Some healthcare is better than nothing. And B, the people providing this healthcare doesn't give a crap about the people they're doing that, like the nurses and maybe a lot of the doctors do, but the insurance companies and the hospital administrative staff don't give a fuck about you. Not one little bit. Not even a tiny little bit. Okay? They're responsible to people who they're trying to make money for, and as long as that continues to be the system under which we operate, healthcare is going to be prohibitively expensive for a significant portion of the population. And that's just the end of it. Like, there is no further discussion about this. You can try to come up with some feeble bullshit arguments about, markets this and capitalism that. And I'm all for capitalism. I've made that very clear on this channel multiple times and in many conversations that I've had with other people. I believe in free markets. I believe in capitalism. But I also believe that there are certain things that are too vulnerable to predators to allow those things to be unregulated and uncontrolled. And I think healthcare is one of them. So that's what I thought. That's my response. My second response to the whole thing. Universal healthcare is something that we could do, and it could be affordable, and it could be reasonable. It's going to suck at first. It's going to be hard at first. Nobody's going to want to deal with it at first. But eventually, when we take the profit motive out of things, and the entities that are doing the research to figure out how to cure things rather than treat things, when we finally get to that point, it'll be a reasonable situation. But like most things in life, the initial stages of it are going to suck. They're going to be really hard. Nobody's going to want to do it, and that's why we don't. That's why we don't. I think everybody would love the end goal of what socialized medicine would mean. We don't want to put up with the bullshit that's going to come at first. And that's why it's not going to go anywhere. That's why it's not going to go anywhere. But the idea that we shouldn't do it because of either free markets or because, the consequences of, long wait times and things like that. If you don't have health insurance, you don't give a shit about that. I'd rather have something than nothing. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Anyways, that was a long, drawn-out way of saying I disagree with this particular point. As I said in my other video, I agree with him 99% of the time, but on this one video, he had a couple of things that just kind of triggered me the wrong way, and I just felt the need to say something about it. So thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. And then head over to the gaming channel. Check that out because we're trying to reach 10,000 subscribers over there. And, I have memberships and all that other stuff over there too. So again, thanks for watching. Be sure to come back for whatever my next video happens to be, and I'll see you then.